Welcome to my channel, Toby the Toby. There are at least 3 more subscribers, so you're you, I'm Toby. Let's get into this. Hi gang, today we're talking about Twilight, which is both mine and many other people's comfort media because it's just so bad that it's good. Sometimes it feels like it's the only consumable, vampire media that isn't just about sex. And that's probably because Stephenie Meyer is a Mormon, and I'm pretty sure she'd be kicked out of her church if she was just like, oh yeah, Edward fucking Miller. So, yeah. So here is the beloved book herself. I think it's my comfort media because I read all the books, within the span of a week when I was 11. And I continued to reread Breaking Dawn 500 times every year. I haven't read it this year though, so might have to do it. But today we're talking about rip-offs. Twilight rip-offs. And we're only going to discuss them from memory. So it's going to I feel like that just ups the stakes, and I also don't want to reread them. So first one we have, I only have this book, but I've actually read all of them, I think. The first one is called Evermore. It's by Alison Noel. I actually really loved these. They aren't about vampires, but they're definitely going off that vampire trend. They're about immortals that drink red juice. We know what you're talking about. And forbidden love. And rejection of passion. Even on this it says, love is a gift. Passion is a curse. I don't know, some of that purity culture going on there, don't have sex, sex is bad. Even in these, praise for this series, it says, this young adult novel ponders immortal love and the knowledge that revenge weakens and love strengthens. Fans of the Twilight series should really love it. Oh, there's another one! Evermore will thrill many teen fantasy suspense readers, especially fans of Stephenie Meyer's Twilight. Noel creates a cast of recognizably diverse teens in a realistic high school setting, along with just the right amount of tension to make Eva's discovery of her immortality, should she choose it, exciting and credible. Oh my god, the fact that they've mentioned it twice, mentioned Twilight twice in this, is a clear, this is a Twilight ripoff. She was going for that vibe. It could just be Twilight, or it could also have a bit of influence from the Vampire Diaries. I think the first episode of the Vampire Diaries came out in 2010. This came out in 2010. Okay. So no, it doesn't actually have from the TV show. This author may have read the original books, which I will go into. They're not a Twilight ripoff, so it's a bit different. So this may in fact be a Vampire Diaries ripoff. Bit shocked because I don't think the Vampire Diaries were as big as Twilight. And when I say the Vampire Diaries, I'm talking about the books, not the TV show. The TV show was obviously huge, and there are many TV show ripoffs of the Vampire Diaries. So basically the plot, from what I remember, there's this girl, she's called Eva, which is the most just self-insert name, Wattpad fanfiction kind of vibe. And there's more people in this that have just the craziest names. There's Haven. Oh, there's Roman. That's a very hot guy name. There's this girl named Eva, and her entire family dies. And because of that, she can see auras. Yeah. I've probably got all of this wrong. She can see auras, and she can see her dead little sister, which is kind of morbid, by the way. And also the little sister gets her own spin-off when she, eventually, decides to move on and not hang around with Eva in the living world, I guess. And so Eva, she suddenly gets really hot. For some reason, I always imagined Eva having black hair, but she is in fact a blonde. So Eva gets really, really hot. And everyone's like, oh my god, you're so sexy. And her best friend kind of gets mad about it at some point. I don't know. She lives with her aunt now because obviously her parents are dead. And one day, a new hot guy shows up at her school, Damon. And a lot of stuff happened. I don't really remember the plot. I know she becomes, like, a psychic at some point called Avalon, and her aunt finds out there's a whole plot about that. And then at some point, she meets this other hot guy called Roman. But when she hangs out with Roman, she gets ugly again. And by ugly, they just mean she gets acne. Because that's a really fun thing to tell the teen audience reading this. That if you have acne, you're ugly. Like, majority of people I went to high school with had acne. Like, and when you're at that age, you don't even notice it. You just look through it because literally everyone has pimples. It's just the way it is. And they're really good. These immortals, they're just vampires, honestly. Like, I know they're immortals, but they're vampires. And so these immortals, they are really good at manifesting. Like, you know how we can just be like, universe, give me this, please. And it'll take a bit. You know, sometimes it'll be really quick, sometimes it'll be really slow. Their manifestation is instant. Like, there's so many times where the main characters are like, give me a tulip, and it just magically appears in their hands, and like, for you? And also their, like, romantic handing thing, their romantic symbol is tulips, I feel like. At least from what I can remember and gather. Which is, it sounds like such a quirky thing, but, you know, roses doesn't have to be your favourite flower. My favourite flower is wattles. So, if someone manifested me wattles, let me tell you, I would start an Immortals romance fantasy novel with them. That's just how it is. And it also has reincarnation in it. I can't remember if they all look the same, but the concept of reincarnation in novels like this kind of like, it rubs me the wrong way these days, because a lot of the time they'll have their original, like, reincarnation, the first one, and they were both human, and it'll get to a point where the guy, and it's always the guy, he became like a vampire or a mortal, and he's living forever, and he encounters her over and over. It kind of feels like grooming, in a weird way. Like, he has this prior knowledge that she doesn't. That's just, it rubs me the wrong way. Not like I'm gonna be like, never write about it again. It's just, it makes me a bit uncomfy. I think at some point they have something happen to them and they can't touch each other anymore. So this guy, he wears like one glove to hold her hand all the time. Like, holding hands is the most important thing in the world. And everyone's like, don't be like Michael Jackson and wear one glove. That's so out of style. Like, it was 2010. What? We know what you were wearing in 2010, and we know it wasn't good. So calm down. But yeah, I think that's it until they manifest a tiny bit of like air force field around their skin so they can still touch. I don't know, it's real confusing. But I think it was good. I absolutely ate these up when I was 13. Because I think I was trying to grip onto that Twilight nostalgia. Like, anything that could make me feel like the tiniest bit the same way, then 100% I was down to read it. And you can tell I really enjoyed it if I came up with like a side plot where I was in it and I was someone's sister. I think I made myself someone's sister. I can't remember who though. I don't know. If I wrote mental fan fiction about it, then you know it's good. Then we have Vampire Academy. Vampire Academy, it's really problematic. So essentially, I gotta find to remember their names. I think I had this recommended to me by one of my friends. 2007. So this came out in 2007. When did this come out? I think Twilight came out in 2005. Or at least it's set. Yeah, it came out in 2005. So this is definitely a ripoff. I can say with full certainty that this is a ripoff of Twilight. Our main character, Rose, she's not like other girls, and she's very close with her best friend. I'm trying to find where it explains what they are. So there's like these vampires, and they can have kids. So the full-blood vampires, they have kids, and they're full-blooded. But if they have a kid with a mortal or a half-blood vampire, then it's a half-blood vampire. And half-blood vampires, they can't have kids unless they have them with a full-blood vampire. It's so confusing. And so, the main character, Rose, she's a half-blood vampire. I think her dad's the full-blood one. And she is... These half-blood vampires, they're meant to be the protectors of the full-blood vampires. Or at least the like, royal families of the full-blood vampires. And she wants to be the protector of her best friend, Liz. And so they go to this academy, her and Liz, but they decide to escape and they're living in the real world. And she lets Liz drink her blood. Because full-blood vampires, they need blood to live. Half-blood vampires don't. And so she lets Liz drink her blood. And the whole drinking blood thing, it's like... The venom is hot. It's pleasurable. And it did not make me realize anything about myself, and we are going to walk past that. And so she becomes the blood person for her, and then later people mock her and like, you're a blood whore, and because apparently it's really like bad to be like give blood to vampires, like it's shameful, but like that's their food source. I'm never gonna go up to a cow and be like, screw you, you're a cow and I ate a hamburger yesterday, like. It's not shameful to be a cow. But, again, like, these people have autonomy and they're deciding to be consumed upon, so I guess that's different. And the cows, they don't really understand that they're gonna be eaten, which is kind of really dark now that I think about it, and we might move on from that. Something happens. I don't know what it is. I think Liz, she has, all the vampires, all the full-blood vampires, they have elemental powers. But Liz, she has the secret power, spirit, and she can bring things back to life. And at some point, Rose dies and she brings her back to life. And now, her and Rose are like spirit-bound. They're like attached together forever. Which it isn't a bad plot. It's very cool. I like it. But the bad thing about this book is that Rose, I think she's 16. That seems to be a clear age. Though I think Eva was 15. But Rose is 16 in this. And she gets with her teacher, who is 24. And while in the beginning of the book, they're like, it's okay because they met before. And it's like, no, she's a child. And it's the fact that, like, even if she was 18, it would still be wrong because this guy, he's, like, in a place of authority over her. And she's still in high school. Like, that's very different life stages. He legally has authority over her, and that's bad vibes. But they, like, fuck in a cabin when they think they're gonna die. And everyone's like, so romantic. And yeah, I read it and it was romantic. But still, it was wrong. It was wrong. Not good. And so, I don't know what happens in the middle. I think she goes to, like, a couple different countries and meets some more people who are spirit-bound. And then she finds out her boyfriend, who, like, the older guy, he turned into a bad vampire. And basically they're like proper dead. They can't reproduce, they can't eat anything, they only live off blood. And he kidnaps her and he's like, yeah, become one of the bad vampires with me. Because half vampires can become the bad vampires. Because he was a half vampire too. And she's like, no, I don't want to be a bad vampire, I want to hang out with Liz. But then he's like, let me bite you. And she's like, okay, sure. And he bites her and it's like 500 times more better than when Liz did it. And so she's like, oh, I love it. Which again did not make me realize anything about myself, and we are moving on. So, I don't know, I don't think I finished that series. That's the last thing I remember. That's it. So now we have The Vampire Diaries, which is not a ripoff of Twilight, but I really wanted to talk about it because I love this book. Like, the show, it's alright, but just the vibes of this book are something else. It makes you feel like you've been thrown in another dimension because of just how, like, it's pure chaos. Like, this book is pure chaos. It starts off, first two books you can kind of believe what's happening, but from any point after that, like, it's insane. It's insane. It's insane. So basically, you know, basic, Elena's reincarnated 500 times, except I think the doppelganger thing does come into play as well. Though I haven't read all of it. I haven't read all the series because there are so many books in it. So, where I got up to in it, all these, like, bugs were in people's minds and they were controlling them. But also it was making teenage underage girls really horny and, like, sexual. But then there was, like, this demon thing that Caroline was talking to that made her pregnant. I don't know, it's crazy, it's chaotic. I'd recommend to read it if you're gonna hate read something. Hate read this. All of them. Hate read the entire Vampire Diaries series. I don't know how they turned it into the TV show. So that was me talking about all the Twilight ripoffs. Not all, but some of the Twilight ripoffs, plus the Vampire Diaries. If you want me to actually reread them into detail and take notes and do a proper review on that, comment below. I've also got other vampire ripoff Twilight books that I haven't read yet. I've got at least 2 more, maybe 3, because I think probably 3. I also have 50 Shades of Grey, and you'll know the tea. You'll know it. So technically it's also a Twilight ripoff because it's literally Twilight fanfiction. Change the names. So if you'd like me to do a review of those next, or do a proper review of these, then comment below. Today's song of the day is Fuzzy by Waterparks, and I know I won't shut up about Waterparks, but they've released a new album and I love it, and I can't stop listening to it. I do not think I've listened to any other form of music at all since that album came out. And to be fair, it has been like 3 days. So that's okay. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.